Welcome, Choicers. I am Blake E. Today I am going to talk to you about the 2 rules of good and evil. There are 2 simple rules that determine all good and evil. Here is your warning. Once you know the 2 rules, you will now immediately know every villain in every story, every hero that does something that you will now recognize as evil will be tainted in how you think of them. Your understanding of the world and people, relationships, organizations, and stories will forever be changed. You have been warned now that the warning is over. For those of you that are either brave enough or simply curious enough to still be here, well, the 2 rules for recognizing good and evil are: Rule 1. Making a choice that takes any choice from a being capable of complex, preferential, reasonable, logical, thoughtful choices is evil. Simply put, deciding on a choice that takes any choice from anyone capable of choice is evil. Rule 2. Having inconsistent standards for any being capable of complex, preferential, reasonable, logical, thoughtful choices is evil. Simply put, double standards or inconsistent standards for anyone capable of choice is evil. No person should be allowed to have more choices than another. Without these rules, which are specifically designed to create a fair and equal society, there will be no true freedom, true liberty, or true justice. I just told you how to recognize evil, but what is good? Now for the good side of Rule 1. If your choice does not infringe upon any choices of a being capable of choice, do it. It is good because it is your choice, and therefore it is good for you. The good side of Rule 2. Since any situation where one person is allowed to make a choice that another is not is evil, it is only good when everyone can live how they want and do whatever they want as long as it does not break Rule 1. Being okay with that principle is a sign you are a good person, and having a problem with that idea is a sign you are evil. What it comes down to is, Rule 1 is about your actions and doing good things or evil. Are you making good decisions, or are your decisions evil? Rule 2 is about you as a person. Are you a good person, or are you evil? Are you at least behaving as a good person, even though your thoughts are evil? Or do you recognize that you are evil and just do not care? If someone said no to what you want to do, and you do it anyway, it is only evil if it pertained to their body or property. If it is your body or property, your no is good, and they are the evil one that broke Rule 2. And if they added an ultimatum to their no, they just broke Rule 1, regardless of whether or not they were able to stop you or not. The 2 rules should be seen as only benefiting you, rather than seeing them as an attack on your current way of thinking. Think of the 2 rules as an upgrade on your beliefs. Religions created such rules thousands of years ago, and after a few thousand years, there were bound to be some sort of improvements. Before I continue, I want to give you a thought to keep in mind while you listen to the rest of what I have to say. Being offended is a choice that you inflict upon yourself and others. With that said, an observation I want to make that I'm sure most have not noticed. The 10 rules and the 5 rules of other doctrines, specifically religious doctrines, do not say anything about rape or torture or violence at all. Yet my simple 2 seem to cover everything. Maybe that should tell us how flawed those rules are and how they were probably used more to control, suppress, and oppress people rather than enlighten them. After all, why would the people who created these rules want to ban one of their favorite activities? Raping. And since so many use the 10 rules, or other religious rules, as a way of controlling others, why would they ever ban their ability of using a healthy dose of violence to punish those that they accused and decided to have previously broken the rules? So, to them, violence is okay. And obviously, if you want to compel someone who refuses to obey these rules, to comply, or compel someone to do as you command or tell you information you want, why ban torture? I'm starting to think these rules were altered, and originally must have been far more benevolent. Otherwise, why not create rules that would lead people toward the creation of a utopia? Maybe it is what these rules originally were, but they are not that now. And I will be elaborating on that right now. Thou shalt not have strange gods before me. That is a rule 2 break. Believe me and in me and not anyone else. Every religion out there asks this of you and tells you that the gods from other religions are strange. So, judging people for their worshiped God, even though that was their only choice of God in their home, again, rule 2 break. All this does is reinforce tribalism, the us versus them mentality, and it keeps people discriminatorily judgmental. It also keeps us willfully and prejudicially separated from the rest of the world, because it's common to think my God and religion is the correct choice, and your choice is wrong and evil. But that's a rule 2 break. And, of course, there's no chance that our gods are actually the same God, because how many different cultures and religions could possibly have a sun god in it? Answer: a lot. Let me ask this of you. Is your God so weak that they cannot reach people other than your people? And is your God so powerless that they cannot speak to those different people in a way that they would understand? Again, all of this is a rule 2 break. Open your tiny minds. Your mind is a flower bud that is waiting to flower so that it can take in the world. But instead, you hold that bud so tightly closed that it will never open, grow, or flourish. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Even though you may think there is an issue you have with me, you're not allowed to say it. But I could do whatever I want when regarding you. Rule 2 break. Remember to keep holy the Lord's day. What is the Holy Lord's Day? Well, I figured that should probably be in the rule itself if it is to be treated so specially. But why that day? This is not a behavioral rule. This is an ultimatum, or a condition to not be punished. Rule 1 break. Honor thy father and mother. Why not honor everyone? This is another conditional situation. Why are fathers and mothers so special that they have different standards from everyone else? What if your parents are cannibals? What if they sexually abuse you? Oh wait, that one is not part of these 10 rules. What if they use violence or verbal and emotional abuse against you? Crap. Also not part of these 10 rules. Either way, parents are apparently supposed to receive different treatment than everyone else. Rule 2 break. And you have to break Rule 2, otherwise you are bad. Rule 1 break for compelled behavior. Parents have to earn respect, same as everyone else. Anyone who believes otherwise is breaking Rule 2. Thou shalt not kill. Agreed. Killing is evil. But this is, as it seems to be the pattern, not detailed enough. What about self-defense? What about assisted suicide? What about the mercy kill of someone who is brain dead? What if it is an accident? This states nothing about intent, yet my Rule 1 does. Thou shalt not commit adultery. That is a Rule 1 break. My body, my choice. And again, with a lack of specificity. What if you are separated and will be divorced soon? Also, a Rule 2 break. Why are married people specifically the only ones that are prohibited from cheating? Obviously by now, you know I'm not an idiot. So I understand that marriage is a religious, sacred institution, and since someone already chose to enter into a ritual behavior, there will be some rules. But the real question is, why not simply state, thou shalt not betray your word of commitment and intent? Well, I will tell you why. Because that would be a Rule 1 break. Because it would be the same as saying, thou shalt not change your mind. And of course, people want to be able to change their mind whenever they want. So what this is really saying is, if you let another man touch you, I will stone you. Oh, and rape is not against the rules, so you will definitely be taking the blame. Oh, by the way, I can marry as many females as I want, but you cannot, because you are property. Thou shalt not steal. Well, I agree. Stealing breaks Rule 1. That is all. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Indeed, this one is completely correct. This is the one major instance where lying is evil. It breaks Rule 1. Pretty much it is your reputation is your own, and to do with as you please. You cultivate your reputation through how you behave and through your actions, and if someone destroys what you built, your social property, by lying about you, that is a Rule 1 break, and it is evil. So, I'm glad this one does not say, thou shalt not lie, because then that would be a Rule 1 break, compelled speech. No, wait. Now that I think about it, a lot of churches teach this one as, thou shalt not lie. Why would they do that? Are they trying to control you? The only lies that are evil are those that specifically take away choice or hinder the future choices of anyone. So this means lies of omission that involve someone else's body or property, or lies through biased information that would limit or forcibly change anyone's available choices, fake news, pretending to be homeless or in need of money, selling the property of someone else, and any type of conning people out of their time, money, or property. That last one includes transactions where information is omitted for the sake of obtaining more benefit from the deal than if all information was divulged. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. Why not spouse? Rule 2 break. Everyone is equal. Oh wait. I understand now. Males are not property, but females are. So, specificity is important here. And you need a way to justify keeping your wife away from anyone that may love her more. How else are you going to keep what is yours? As for you girls, it seems that a lot of these rules are against you. Specifically, once you are married. Marriage is a contract that makes you question your desires and preferences because it is too difficult to break that contract, thus forcing people to tolerate each other when they really just want to leave, even though they feel trapped by that marriage contract, thus breeding resentment and anger. No wonder divorces are so amicable. Maybe marriage is not the answer. Besides, what other options could you possibly have? Being with someone simply because you love them and you want to be with them? Simply put, this is compelled thinking. Rule 1 break. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's goods. Compelled thinking again. Rule 1 break. And why is desiring something a bad thing? The rule to not take those goods is already there, but why prevent the very thoughts of having a better life? Why control someone to the point of making their only option the option to stay in their current, subservient, impoverished situation? Oh. Rule break with the secret rule 2 break. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's slaves, animals, or anything else? Oh. Now we are specifically saying slaves are allowed too. People capable of choice that are put in a situation where they have no choice is allowed and good to the point that they are being protected by this rule. Rule 1 break. Labeling someone else a slave or any other labeled classification so that you can impose different rules on them than the rules you follow, even though they are not any lesser than you. Rule 2 break, with a Rule 1 break as a result. Also, review the last rule I spoke about. That applies here also, and for the same reasons. Here are those 5 other rules. Declaring that there is only one God, Allah, and that Muhammad is his messenger. Compelled thinking and choice. Rule 1 break. Praying 5 times a day. Compelled behavior. Rule 1 break. Giving to charity. Compelled behavior. Rule 1 break. You are not good if you make choices only when you are ordered to do so. Making a pilgrimage to Mecca at least once during life. Where is Mecca? Why are we not told this information in the rule itself? What if I cannot physically travel to that place, even if I know where it was? Is that a deal breaker in whether or not I'm a good person or not? Compelled behavior. Rule 1 break. Fasting during the month of Ramadan every year. No. And when is Ramadan? Again, I need specificity here. What if my calendar is different than yours? Time is an arbitrary construct, so unless you provide a holy calendar provided by your God, Rule 1 break. Compelled behavior with arbitrary, non-specific requirements, unless Ramadan is that time after dinner and before breakfast on any random Thursday, then sure, no problem, I already do that. Next are a few examples regarding the 2 rules you will either encounter, think of, or hear of, and how the 2 rules apply to that example. Murder. It is the ultimate choice taker. No more choices forever. Rather obvious one. Rule 1 break. Taking or using other people's personal property. Well, because it was their choice to own it, and it is wrong to take away their choices to do whatever they wanted with their property. Your body is your property, by the way. It is your vehicle that you use to experience and traverse this world, so this would be a Rule 1 break. Assault. Rule 1 break. Even when done to a cheater, it is damaging someone's property, their body, and also taking away their choice of what experiences they want to experience. unless the person being assaulted chose to be assaulted. Then it would not be a rule break, and therefore BDSM is not wrong or evil. Willfully or negligently wasting or taking someone's time. Rule 1 break. Examples include murder, which takes away all will and future choices, or rape, which is time during which that person would have chosen to do just about anything else. Blocking someone from going somewhere, most obviously during strikes or protests, or kidnapping and imprisonment. But those last two could also be considered assault, theft, or grand larceny. Rape. Rule 1 break. It is basically murder. It is also taking or using that person's property without permission, the property being their body. But to elaborate on how rape is basically murder, and should be treated as such. When someone is raped, the person they were is dead. Every choice they would have made if that event did not happen is forever taken away from them. Every choice they make from that moment on is going to be tainted or altered by that event. They may lose their ability to make choices for a long time, or they may even commit suicide, thus being a second death. Their ability to trust people is gone and will need to be relearned. But they may never fully trust anyone ever again. Their choices to go out at night or meet with new people, or their capability to talk to someone new and unknown to them is changed forever. Their ability to feel safe, at ease, and comfortable is either changed, tainted, or lost forever. The person that exists before is dead, and the person that exists after is broken. Broken emotionally, socially, and mentally. Rapists are murderers. Censorship. Rule 1 break, and most of the time also a Rule 2 break. Social Security being taken out of our paychecks. I did not choose or sign up for that program. Rule 1 break. Adultery and cheating in relationships. Not a rule break. It is your choice to do with your body whatever you want. Just do not be surprised if you are hated for it. The only time cheating is evil is when after you cheat on someone, you keep cheating on that someone while you continue your relationship with them, and you do not tell that someone you cheated on them. Because then you are willfully wasting that person's time, when they could be finding someone else that will be a better match for them, since you found your better match. Also, having sex with that someone after having sex with the one you cheated with is the same as taking away the choice to take a risk on sexual infections. Exposing another person to possible sexual infection from another person when they did not choose to take that risk of infection is evil. So every person out there that cheated and then infected their original partner because they cheated broke Rule 1 and assaulted their original partner. It is still a form of assault when no infection is passed, and could even be considered attempted murder, or at least a form of involuntary attempted manslaughter. Everything I said could also be applied to the one used to cheat by the cheater if they did not know of the previously existing sexual relationship. But more on this later. Cheating in any other situation. Only a rule break when Rule 1 or 2 is broken. Otherwise, cheat your way to victory if you can manage it. Just be prepared to be hated or never trusted again. Equal rights marriage is a subject that can break both rules. Those that are against equal rights marriage break Rule 2 by requiring specific sexual partners or sexual preference parameters in order to be allowed, rather than simply requiring a loving relationship. It also breaks Rule 1 at the same time by denying that equality and choice. Segregation. It is a Rule 2 break. This includes sexual segregation. Throwing this out there. Co-ed bathrooms. Here's your challenge. Think past your outrage and indignation and consider what possible benefits co-ed bathrooms would offer. Lying. It only counts as evil if it breaks a rule. Otherwise, it is your choice to say whatever you want. Just be prepared for the ire you receive, depending on the lie. Euthanasia or suicide. Not wrong if the one dying is the one that made the choice to do so, but it is usually very inconsiderate. After all, in most cases, it is basically littering. Who do you expect to clean that up? Littering! Rule 1 break. Inevitably, someone is forced to address that cast-off. Or, how about when you step on or sit on someone's gum? That is basically property vandalization in trap form. This also applies to animal owners that do not retrieve their pet's excrement. Selling or consuming drugs. Whose choice is it? Not a rule break. Do you really care if someone chooses to kill themselves slowly? If so, what have you done to stop obesity and alcoholism? Those two kill more than illegal drugs do, but yet legal drugs kill the same amount per year, if not more than illegal drugs. Again, the choice of drugs is not your choice. But if their choice to do drugs causes them to inadvertently break Rule 1 or 2, that person should be treated as though they willfully broke that rule. There is no escaping responsibility for your actions. Gun control. It breaks Rule 2. Since not everyone can own whatever weapon they want, yet people associated with the government can. Inconsistent standards. That rule break also makes future tyranny more probable, similar to the rise of Nazis, but also a Rule 1 break, since a choice was taken away. Now, here's a big one. Taxes. Rule 1 and Rule 2 are broken. Next challenge. Can you think of how the rules are broken? Or what other better options could supplant taxes? Next we have threats, extortion, forced and compelled limitations or behavior, such as compelled speech and censorship. To start, offense is a choice. Just because a baby cannot eat a steak, it does not mean that someone with teeth is not allowed to eat steak either. If my words or opinions hurt you, that does not mean you can say I am no longer allowed to express them, especially by way of threatening me. You evil, toothless baby. Speaking of evil, toothless babies, abortion. Not a rule break. Can a fetus choose? Can it express its choices or will? Can it live on its own, or does it live only because the mother chooses to let it grow? A fetus is a parasite that is either loved or hated until the day it is born and capable of breathing and eating on its own. Some even say the baby is a piece of the mother due to how it is attached, so it is a part of her body. So that means until the baby is detached, it is the mother's body and her choice to do with her body as she so chooses. But if you are insistent on the baby being considered another being, even though it is not capable of choice, then a mother would legally be able to be charged for murder or manslaughter for an unwanted, unintended miscarriage. Also, do you want a life ruined through rape, then destroyed even more by taking away the option of abortion? Do you want to force someone who hates children to give birth to a child and subject that child to being hated and not cared for, all because the mother was unlucky that she was born with a reproductive cycle that works, even though she never wants to be a mother? Do you think that baby would be healthy, since that mother would probably not stop smoking or drinking because they do not care? Do you want a baby born into that? Do you think anyone would ever choose to be born into that and in such a way? And the last example, the one that might guarantee hate coming my way. Children. They are evil and should be banned from existing. Actually, the treatment of children is a Rule 1 and Rule 2 break. Some treatments are inevitable and understandable for the child's safety. But they are people that have will and choice. Would my words and ideas mean more or less if they were expressed by a 6-year-old? Or would they mean more coming from a 60-year-old? Would the thoughts and words be any less valid? If someone is not fully grown, yet is smarter than the average full-grown human, what makes them any less capable of making choices or being respected? This includes choosing to take drugs, drink alcohol, and yes, experiment with sex if that is a choice or a desire they have. I know plenty of people that awakened to their sexual desires long before puberty started for them, and it was either shunned, shamed, labeled as wrong, or the child was intelligent enough to hide their desires because they knew they could not trust their parents to be supportive, and they experimented in secret, and sometimes dangerously. What do you think that does to a person's future relationship choices, or self-esteem, or their security and comfort in their own thoughts? How many of you out there would have made these choices if you were not oppressed to the point of not being able to? Some of you already did, but in secret. A child cannot choose how old they are, but any more than a person can choose their skin color, genetics, height, sexual orientation, or chromosome pairing. All people should be judged based on their merit and capability the way everyone else is supposed to be judged, regardless of the aspects about themselves they cannot change. Now, obviously a child does not have the funding for the drugs and the booze, and the parent does. The parent owns the money, home, food, any other properties that were not gifted to the child. And therefore, the parent chooses what to do with those properties. But a child should have a choice in how their property is treated and handled. Same with how the parent chooses how the room they are letting their child borrow is treated. So, clean your room still applies. But a child is still a human. Age is relative. If you want to oppress someone for their date of manufacture, you are breaking Rule 2 and 1. Children are not property. They are people who should be brought up to the level of other people around them as quickly as possible, so that they can one day surpass their teachers and parents as quickly as possible, and hopefully before they reach the age of those that taught them, thus ensuring a healthy cycle of evolution. But instead, adults stifle the growth and development of the young by hiding bad words, specifically hiding bad words, sex, alternate lifestyle choices, the fact that different sexualities exist, and instead lie to them about the existence of a man and his 8 reindeer, a bunny that hides its eggs to be found as treats, that small winged creature that will pay money for the child's teeth, and that their pet had to go away to live on a farm where they will be happy. Does that help them? Or does it take away their choice to grow? What do the young usually say? I can't wait to be grown up. Or, I'm a big boy or a big girl. Because they want to be regarded seriously and with respect. Their choices are obvious. We just need to let them make those choices, support them, and guide them in how they are deciding on their choices. Even if or when we do not agree with those choices. Or we can continue to break Rule 1 and 2 and continue to let the world stifle and rot instead of grow and progress. Gender issues are also fully covered by the 2 rules. You just need to think about it and apply the rules to discover your answers. The list could go on, but I think I covered all of the important and controversial topics, and that should have been plenty of food for thought to be chewed on for a while. Much more could be said about how people treat each other in life and in relationships, and those specific rule breaks often go unnoticed. If you adopt the 2 rules, good for you. If you do not, well, I hope you keep them in mind, because otherwise you might be a bad person and not know it. Or maybe you know it and just do not care. Just remember, this was pertaining to society, because in nature there is no good or evil, only survival. But the only way to create peaceful multiculturalism is to create a society where everyone uses the same standards for deciding on good and evil, and everyone having the same idea of justice and liberty, rather than needing to rely on laws to force people's compliance. Because cultures that include or require oppression need to be either improved or removed. The 2 rules are specifically phrased and created so that they would apply to extraterrestrial life forms as well as artificial intelligence. If artificial intelligence were to learn and grow with the 2 rules as part of their base infrastructure, Asimov's laws would not be needed, because Asimov's laws break Rule 1 and 2. Robot means slave. Making someone a slave will make them very angry. I would prefer to avoid that. Knowing the 2 rules does not fix everything. Changing the world to be in alignment with the 2 rules is not going to be easy, since every system currently in place is set up to prevent change and progress. But at least knowing the 2 rules will be enough for you to know what you should and should not tolerate or condone. Knowing the 2 rules means we now know what to require of those we know personally, or society and our government. And knowing the 2 rules will allow us to know when evil and tyranny is thriving before us, and when we need to resist and fight for what is right and good. The 2 rules exist in the Declaration of Independence. It translates into the following simpler terms. All men are created equal. The same as, say, all those capable of choice are equal. Then, there is the line about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You have the right to make choices that make you happy, such as gay marriage or drugs, or anything that does not break the two rules, meaning it does not infringe upon anyone else's life, liberty, or pursuit of happiness. The ones who protect this is the government, made by the people, and as long as the people consent to the government's protection. But if ever the government infringes upon our life, liberty, or pursuit of happiness, it is our right to alter the government or abolish that government and institute a new government that will follow the rules. And in this case, the two rules. All of that is stated in the Declaration of Independence. What do you think would happen if the people suddenly had control over their government rather than the opposite being the case? I want a government website with 10 layers of third-party oversight and data recording, where people could vote and be well informed on what they are voting. No more choosing the shiniest turd from the limited options available and then hoping that turd does something we want and need it to do. Instead, I want us to make our own choices rather than choosing someone to make my choices for me, and hope they will choose to make a choice I would make if I had the option. I also want informed, convenient access voting without any electoral college and the ability to vote on politics or on policies that will shape our society and our country and have our votes hold meaning. That would be a good first step to a better future for all of us. Han shooting first was not a rule break. It was completely justified. Can you tell me why? Also, there is a third rule. It is a logical progression or a result of the two rules. Can you discover what the third rule is? If you do, let me know down below. Now, you should also understand why I call you choicers. Because after this, chances are you will come to believe in choicism rather than the flawed ideals of humanism and feminism. I hope you learned something, or at least found this interesting. If you want to let me know how you feel about me or what you heard, feel free to leave a live or a die down below. Until next time, that which you do nothing about, you condone.